Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and on today's video I'm going to give you guys a brief explanation of what wholesaling real estate is. I'm going to go over some examples, and at the end I'm going to give you guys an exact game plan. That way you don't have any more questions and you are certain on what are the steps you need to take to actually start wholesaling and do it successfully, right? Because there's a lot of things you need to do, like market research and having the right tools, and if you don't have money, then at least be aware that you don't have money so you can take a different path. Because at the end of the day, there's various ways to be successful in wholesaling real estate. There's different marketing methods, different budgets, different markets. Everyone can succeed if they take different paths. So in this video, with the game plan that I give you, you should be able to find out what path you should be taking. Basic wholesaling training. First, I'm going to explain some terms. I'm going to explain what wholesaling is. I'm going to give you guys some examples, and then we'll get into the actual checklist that's going to help you guys identify what your plan should be, right? So let me start sharing my screen here. Cool. So I'm sharing my screen here, guys, and as you guys can see, it says, what is wholesaling? Now, if we read right over here, it says wholesaling real estate is when you find a property at a deep discount and you sell your contract to a cash buyer for a profit anywhere from $5,000 to $80,000. Cool. Flippers and landlords are constantly looking for deals and will not mind paying you a fee for finding them deep discounted houses. Now, there's no cash, there's also no credit required. You sell your contract to a buyer who will step in your shoes and execute the contract. They're going to pay you a fee for finding them a deal. Cool. They're going to pay you a fee. That's awesome. So in this example, you have a contract with the seller at $85,000. You go ahead and you assign that contract to a buyer who pays $100K for it. You just made $15,000 profit. That's literally as simple as it gets. Now, the business is simple, but what's actually hard is implementing and being consistent. But the business model, super simple, right? The seller was clearly in distress. They wanted to sell their property, and we got it under contract. As you can see here is our contract. We got it for $85,000. We went to a cash buyer and said, hey, we obviously marked up our price because the seller's going to get $85,000. So we offered this contract to the buyer for $100,000. That way we can make some money, right? Because we got to pay bills, we got to do all these other stuff. So we tell the buyer, hey, I have this contract for $100K and it's all yours. I'll assign it over to you and you can close on it this week. Now, if it's a good deal, the buyer, the flipper, the landlord, they're going to say, yes, I'm totally on board. You take it to the title company and you close. If you have it locked up too high, then guess what? You're going to have to renegotiate with the seller, and the buyer is not going to end up paying for it, which is okay because you get an inspection period. Basically gives an amount of time in which you can look at the property, check it out, and say, hey, and back out. Say, hey, I don't want this no more, without any legal repercussions or anything like that. You can make an offer on any house, but if you have an inspection period, you're fine. No one's going to come after you saying, hey, you say you were going to buy my house at this price and now you can't. That's what inspection periods are for. Okay, guys? So, the seller and you get a contract at a low price where you know your investor buyers are going to be buying it at. You go ahead, you sell it to your investor buyers. Obviously, you should have gotten it negotiated with the seller and got it deep enough where you can actually mark up your price. Here, we got the contract with the seller, and then we got the contract with the buyer. The seller signs a purchase and sale agreement, and the buyer signs the assignment saying, hey, my company is assigning this contract to this buyer and they're going to fulfill it. That's it. That's all those two documents that you need. Purchase and sale and assignment with the buyer. Let's go over here and take a look at this other example. It says you find a motivated seller named Steven. Steven is willing to sell his property for $75,000. You sign a contract with Steven for $75,000. You find a buyer who is looking for more investment properties. You show him your deal. The buyer offers you $90K. You assign your contract to the buyer pays you $15K, and the buyer pays $75K for the property. As you can see here, you got Steven and you. You guys got the contract for $75,000, and then you and the buyer got the contract at $90,000. So what you do is you take these two documents, the purchase and sale with the homeowner and the assignment contract with the buyer. You take these two pieces of paper and you take it to the title company. Some states are title companies, some states are closing attorneys. You take it to whichever. Tell them, hey, Here's the contract with the seller and the contract with the buyer. And your buyer is supposed to put the earnest money. So you tell your buyer to put the earnest money, and then you guys will be pretty much set to close. And when the time comes to closing, the buyer is going to wire in the money. And the title company is going to make sure that they distribute your assignment fee and they give the seller the amount for the property. Okay, so you don't have to be splitting anything up. You submit these two documents to the title company and they'll split the funds up for you at the day of closing. Cool. So Steven and you sign a contract, you sign that to the buyer, and you just made $15,000. Easy as that. It's as easy as you buying a product. You bought this pencil for $2 and now you're selling it over to Timmy for $5, right? Except we're talking about a lot more money than $5, right? So let's go down over here. And this is the part that most people get stuck on. They're like, why would anybody sell their house for low? Because keep in mind, us as wholesalers, we need it even deeper than what a buyer or a cash buyer is willing to pay. Because that's the only way a cash buyer is going to pay us. If we go below what they need it at. So if a buyer needs the property at $100K for it to be a deal, then we're going to come in at 85, 90, 95 max, right? So if we want to make 5K. If we want to make more, then we will negotiate better. Because how much you make, how big your assignment fee is based on how well you can negotiate with the owner and how deep your discount is. In order for us to get a discount, we're not looking at every single property out there. We're not looking at renovated, beautiful homes that we can fantasize about living in. We're not looking at those properties, guys. For us, wholesalers, we are looking at the ugly houses, the ones that are either outdated or there's motivation. The house. We are targeting specific people that have some sort of motivation, right? So here, let's go back to my iPad here. And here I've listed some of the reasons someone might sell their property at a discount. The bank is about to inherit the house, meaning they're going to get foreclosed on. Maybe they have an inherited property because someone passed away and now the cousin or the uncle inherited a house. And maybe they don't want a house, right? Maybe they want to get rid of it and just cash out, right? There's people out there that specifically only target people that inherit properties or probates. Totally up to you what you want to niche down to, but that's a good one. Also, the property needs work. If the property needs work, then homeowners probably not going to have money to fix it and they're going to be okay with selling it at a discount. They might be a little more realistic with the price because of the condition. Seller has no time for repairs. No time. Agent takes 6 months to sell the property. So maybe they want to sell it quickly, but they just found out that an agent is going to take too long. Tenants are not paying. Seller wants to liquidate. So maybe the tenants are not good. They've breaking the place apart, or they just don't want to pay rent. That might be a reason why someone will sell quickly, because they don't want to deal with the headache, and they definitely don't want to be thinking about, damn, they're ruining my house. They just want to cash out. So tenants are not paying. Sick family member. If there's a sick family member and they have a rental property that they want to get rid of, they might just sell it so they can get cash and then heal that sick relative, right? That's a very legit reason. Another reason is because maybe they own too much taxes, If they owe a lot of taxes to the state, or there's liens, serious liens, they might be more on the side of, hey, maybe I should just sell this because I owe too much. Or this is kind of giving them, a headache to have all those back taxes and all those liens. They might just be willing to sell it then. And if people have liens, it's also because they're not cutting their grass, they're not taking care of their property, and the city comes around and gives fees and liens for that because you're not cleaning it up and you're making the whole neighborhood look nasty. Why would someone sell at a discount? Foreclosure, inherited property, maybe the property needs work, seller has no money or no time, tenants are not paying, sick family member, liens, back taxes, seller wants to move to another state for a job or whatever, or they just want to sell in 30 days because they want to move to another place, or they want to move for a job, or a sick relative lives somewhere else. There's a bunch of different reasons why. Every seller has their own, kind of unique situation. But it's up to you to find out really why they're looking to sell, because that's going to help you when it comes to negotiating. And remember, you get paid based on how well you negotiate. So we went over why property owners sell at a discount. Let's scroll over here. And now, you guys need to pick your market. And by market, I would suggest you pick a state, and in that state, you pick a very popular county and focus on that county. Put a magnifying glass on that county and look at every single little city in that county and see what cities are popping, what cities, there's not many crimes and there's a lot of people that live in there. And try to stay in cities that are over 500,000 in population, because you want a lot of people living in there. You don't want to focus on little towns, because then there's going to be less flippers and less activity and essentially smaller assignment fees. Maybe you think you live in a really small town when you should branch out to do virtual. Now, you can make the same amount of money virtual wholesaling if you have good systems, just as if you would local wholesaling. Okay, so let's talk about some of the benefits. Virtual, if you're virtually, then you can do it from home. You can do it in your bed or your desk. If you're virtual, you can also enter any market, and you can enter the ones that are less competitive. Also, the things that suck about virtual wholesaling is that there's more moving parts, so you need to find people that can check properties out for you. Boots on the ground type of thing. So it's a lot. Or if you want someone to be driving for dollars for you, you need to have that. So it's more pieces. It's not just you going out, checking it out and whatnot. So you need to kind of be more in the community. The thing that sucks, it's harder to show properties to buyers. So you're going to need to find boots on the ground. Also, it might be difficult for sellers who want to meet you. Now, I personally have wholesaled virtually my whole life, and I have never had a problem. If a seller really wants to meet you, you can always just do a Zoom. That doesn't hurt anyone. And just tell them, hey, I'm from this state, go on a Zoom with them. But it does, we have to be honest here that if you are virtually wholesaling, if the seller wants to meet you and you're local, you could just show up at their doorsteps and look way more credible, where people that are virtual have to actually go on a Zoom. So, not that bad, but just kind of weigh that in. Now, if you're local, you have an advantage. So if you're wholesaling in your local market, you have a drastic advantage, because you're literally in your backyard. You can go to all your walkthroughs, you can walk buyers, you can do so much. And as you can see here, you have an advantage. You can easily walk property, easily meet the sellers. It will be easier to build rapport because you're going to be the one face-to-face and the same person on the phone, right? Also, you will know your market better if you're local, because you live in that place, so you know what areas are more dangerous, which areas are more popular, since you actually are from that area. Whereas if you're virtual, you actually have to do a lot of research about what areas, what cities are good. So, and last one, build relationships. Build relationships in person, so you actually get to build relationships, and you get to go to like real estate meetups. So it's pretty good. Now, that's totally up to you guys if you want to do virtual or if you want to do local. I personally am doing virtual, and I know a bunch of other people are doing virtual that have much success with it. But once again, if you have a good market, you're not in a small little tiny county, and you're like somewhere like Dallas or San Antonio or some of those like Tampa, if you live there, do local always. If you're in an area that's popping and has over 500,000 in population, then go for that local market, because at the end of the day, you're going to have less moving parts, and you are physical. The seller's going to get to meet you face to face, and that's always better than someone that's calling them or mailing them. So I would go with local if you can, but if you can't, virtual is there, and honestly, it doesn't hurt being virtual. Let's move on. And key terms. So some of the key terms is as is, which just means you're purchasing the property in current condition that it's in. You are taking it outdated and you are taking it worn out. Retail means fully remodeled home, 2022 standards. So we're not making offers on any retail homes because obviously they're already renovated. MAO means max allowable offer, so that's the max you can offer the seller. And the reason it's the max is because you still have to put in your markup. And ARV, which is the after repair value. Now, another one that I'm forgetting here is IP, which stands for inspection period. Typically, we have 5 to 7 days. And in this time is where you're going to be walking all your cash. I'm not going to write it, but In this 5-7 inspection period is where you can cancel and there's going to be no legal repercussions. You can leave and say, hey, I don't want to buy this house within that inspection period. So that's the time where you bring your buyers or blast that property out so you can get buyers, and they're going to give you feedback and tell you, hey, this is a deal, or they're going to give you feedback and tell you it's not, so you can renegotiate or cancel. So that's when you're going to do that, in the 5 to 7 day inspection period. So we talked about as is, retail, MAO, ARV. Cool. Now, something I wanted to cover is, you guys are probably wondering how you're going to run your math, right? Now, most buyers are using this formula, which everyone is pretty much already aware of it, which is ARV times 0.70 minus repairs. All right? Because in this 0.70, they're willing to pay 70% minus repairs of the ARV, pretty much is what it's saying here. Now, what I would suggest is you actually call buyers and you talk to them and you ask them what percentage of ARV they're buying at. Because here, as you see here, some are buying 75%, 70, 65, and then Memphis is like 55. So you got to call up these buyers. You got to ask them what percentage they're buying at. If they're buying at 70% of ARV minus repairs, if they're buying at 65%, depends on how much they want to make, really. But this 30% here accounts for closing, so it accounts for 6% closing, 6%, commissions, and then about 15% of profit. So this is like pretty healthy. This is what most buyers are looking for. But always talk to your buyers and ask them, what percentage of ARV are you buying at? And they're going to tell you, okay? So, as you can see, every market has sort of a different percentage. But on average, buyers do want to make 50% profit. So, let's scroll down over here. It says, you are not selling the house, you are selling the contract. You are assigning the contract you have with the seller to the buyer. You are selling the buyer the right to purchase at that price in the contract. So you're selling the contract you have with the seller to the buyer for a profit. Cool. Now, this is the game plan that I wanted to talk to you guys about because it's actually really, really important. So keep in mind that it takes 30 to 60 days to close a deal. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, right? So just have the right expectations so you don't quit, right? Because if you think it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, you're going to quit. It's not going to happen, right? So 30 to 60 days. Now, first is you're going to have to pick a market. I recommend just picking one county. Don't focus on 3-4 counties because it's going to be very hard. Values are going to be drastically different. So pick one county. And then you're going to determine your marketing budget, which is super important. If you have money to work with, then you're going to be able to do other things versus if you don't. So let me put that in example right here. If you have no money, then chances are you're going to be most likely cold calling. Or SMS, right? Or Facebook ads, if you have a little bit more money. Or PPC, Google, right? One that I forgot to add is mailing, right? You could do, this looks pretty bad. But the further you go down here, the more expensive it gets, okay? So you need to figure out your budget. If you have money to work with, that's great. You're going to get a deal a lot faster. If you don't, it's going to take time, but you're going to get to keep most of the profits because you didn't spend money on it, right? So if you have no money, you're going to do cold calling. If you have a little bit more money, SMS, direct mail. If you have a lot of money to work with, then go straight to Facebook, PPC, or Google, okay? So pretty much the more money you have access to, the stronger and different things you can actually do with it as far as marketing. But for those of you that don't have money, that's great. Just be well aware that you don't have money, because if you know that you don't have money, you're going to have a better game plan. You're not going to be trying to follow their game plan when you don't have that budget. Now, if you do have a budget, what I want you to keep in mind, a budget is something that you can afford to spend for the next 3 months or so. That's a budget. A budget is not something that you can spend this month, but then next month you don't have that money, right? That's not a budget, okay? So figure out your budget, and then you can figure out what marketing method you're going to use. Step is to pick a marketing strategy, and now the marketing strategy is going to be corresponded to your budget. So if you're going to do calling, you're going to use a dialer. The two dialers that I've used have been Call Tools and Batch Dialer. Those are the only dialers that I've used and I've noticed are really good with making calls. There's also another dialer called Mojo, which I don't really like because it's really expensive, and if someone calls you back, you don't receive any incoming calls. So you can only call out to people, but you can't receive any incoming calls. On Call Tools and on Batch Dialer, you're able to do that. So whichever you like. I think Batch Dialer is better because it takes about 15 minutes to fully set up, where Call Tools, you kind of have to wait for the onboarding meeting, and it takes just a little bit longer. So it takes about 30 minutes to set up, but they do have to put you in an onboarding meeting so you can understand the system. So all in all, if you want to start calling in the next hour, I'd say Batch Dialer. Now, if you are looking to get PPC leads, I recommend iSpeed to Lead. They're very good. You can actually buy directly from their website. And if you see here, some of these are actually really hot leads, like they're motivated. For example, tired of being landlord? No, it's vacant. I'm looking to sell ASAP. This lead costs about $280. Now, this could be a good deal. Now, typically I know people that are buying leads from here. Like they'd buy 5 or 10 leads and they'll close a deal or two. So if you don't want to do calling and texting and you just want to come in here and buy leads, you can also do that. I know people that are having great success, because keep in mind that these leads in here are homeowners who went into this website and the form and they filled out the form that they want to sell. So clearly those are motivated sellers because you're not chasing them. They actually came directly to this. So pick a marketing channel. The next step is to get a list, either driving for dollars, which is free, vacant list, a probate list, or a liens list. And you get these lists from different list providers. Guys, when you guys are getting your list, you can get a list from anywhere. So you can get a list for free, driving for dollars, or you can get a list over here on Propelio, which is what I've seen the best one. They give you 5,000 leads per day. You can use filters and stuff. There's also PropStream. PropStream is $100 a month and only 10K per month. And more lists. PropStream as well, or driving for dollars. Now, when it comes to skip tracing, do not use PropStream skip tracing because it sucks, okay? Some people might even say to go to Fiverr. And trust me, I've been to Fiverr before. This is Fiverr here. And I've paid for people's skip tracing and it's never good data. So anyone that's telling you to pay 7 cents, 5 cents, not good data. What they're going to do is they're going to come here to True People Search and they're going to search up the first name and the last name, and then they're going to get a number. And that number is usually not the right number. It's like 70% accurate. And if you're not doing crazy paid marketing, then maybe this is okay. But if you're doing marketing and you're going to be cold calling and hitting the phone, True People Search is 70% accurate. So you're going to be burning through a lot of money because you're going to get a lot of wrong numbers. So yeah, it's better to just get better data from the start. So I don't use Fiverr. I use Batch Leads. This is what I've been using for my whole business. Every single list I've skip traced has been through here. When you log into Batch, you got your dashboard, property search my list, skip trace. You can text blast and driving for dollars in here. Skip trace. Skip trace is where you're going to get the numbers. Property search is where you can actually search up a property, or you can use these filters to create a list that's going to be juicy, motivated, where you can have like liens and stuff. As you can see, these types of liens. And pretty much just search the county that you're working on and you'll be able to get a list from there. So yeah, check the link below. Don't use PropStream and do not cheap out on your data, because you're going to be talking to a lot of wrong numbers and banging your head against the wall, right? So let's avoid that. Don't cheap out on data. Now, next thing you're going to do is upload your list into your marketing system. So if you're going to call, your dialer. If you're going to text, texting platform. Whatever it is you're going to do, upload it into that marketing system or marketing tool that you're using. Next step is get a script to qualify leads. So the next step is get a script or create a script that is solid of all the pinpoints you need to ask a seller. If you're talking to a seller, you obviously have to pull rapport. You need to find out their condition, motivation, timeline, price, when they're looking to sell, why, if they're trying to move somewhere. You want to really figure out the problem. And you also have to find out the condition of the house. You need to ask about the HVAC, the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, any issues, foundation issues. You need to ask about all these different things. How old the cabinets are. When's the last time they changed the bathroom tile? Ask them different questions to gather information. So get a really good script. And yeah, that's going to help you whenever you need to get on the phone with any of these people. So on to the next. Understand values in your market. You need to understand exactly what the values are in your market. So what a house could sell for renovated in this city versus this area versus this area. That way, whenever you get a lead there, you kind of have an idea of where you need to be at. Put properties under contract that match your cash buyer buy box. So make sure that you're talking to buyers and getting their buy box. Okay. There's two ways of doing it. Either you can get this super cool tool called Privy, which obviously it's not free, but this tool gives you access to MLS listings. You can also sort by the ARV, so you're going to find buyers, and if we find buyers, we can find where they're buying, which gives us an idea of where we should be marketing, right? Now, if you don't have Privy, you can use Zillow or you can use Redfin. And now the whole point of this is to kind of open up your market here. Let's do it the free way, which takes time. So you'll filter. I filtered so far for 30 days, and the keyword is fully renovated. Or we can just do renovated, right? Because we're trying to get flips. So it's 30 days, and then I went up here. I left that blank. I selected houses, and I selected sold, and sold in the last 30 days. We applied it. Now search. I clicked save search, excuse me. Okay, so here we went ahead. We have our filters. Now, as you can see, we have some selling all over. What we want to do is we want to actually look for renovated property. So let's open this one up. This one is for sale, and we're looking for properties that are sold. This one is sold, but is it renovated? Okay, yeah, this is renovated. So we want to find the buyer, right? Which I have right over here, which is not super accurate, I'm going to be honest with you guys, but if you guys really can't afford batch, then True People Search is the next best thing. Look at all the yellow dots. You kind of get an idea of where the flips are happening and just kind of stay in those areas. So I would stay here. As you can see, there's two here, there's two here, there's two here. So this area is pretty good to be marketing to. Okay, I use the Privy literally for buyers and MLS data. So you log into Privy, you put your market, right? So now we're seeing where everything is happening, right? Where most of the transactions are happening. We can go to fix and flip here. It says investor activity, click to see successful investments. So we'll click fix and flip. And now it's telling us where most of the fix and flips are happening, right? So 17 are happening here in this area. 24 are happening around here. You can open it up. Not all of them are actual flips because no algorithm is perfect, but most of them are going to be kind of, they're going to be flips and whatnot. Past month, right? Now you get an idea of where the flips are at. So this area is kind of popping over here. This here, this right here. So this is a good area to be in. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flips in the last month in this area. So make sure you're talking to cash buyers, landlords, flippers, and get their buy box. Their buy box is literally what percentage of ARV are they buying at. So you can kind of figure out how much profit they're looking to make, what type of properties, what areas they look into. That way you can focus on those areas that they're looking for, and you can bring them deals that match what they're looking for. Okay, so call those buyers. You can go on Zillow. You can use this other tool called Privy to find buyers actively in your area. Call them, ask them those questions, and then you'll easily be able to know what you're looking for. Okay, next, you're going to need a CRM. You're going to need a CRM, whether it's free, paid, automated, or not. You're going to need something where you can write down the sellers that you spoke with and when you have to call them again. So I have a bunch. Okay, so you're going to need a CRM. A CRM is pretty much where you're going to be managing your leads. Now, the options that you have is Trello. You go to Trello.com. It's absolutely free, and you can follow. You can see kind of my setup here. I used to use this when I first started. I don't use this anymore, but follow up with people here. You hot, warm, cold, 1 year. So pretty much you're creating boards here, and you'll just put like, oh, the name of the person, so Lara, and then their phone number, and then when you have to follow up with them. You can open up this card and you can do select dates, and from here you can select the next time you have to follow up with them. In activity you can write like, oh, December 1st, spoke to her, she wants to sell the house. December 8th, told me to follow up with her in case she changes her mind, right? And you could come in dates and you can change it. You can also create a checklist of stuff you have to do. And then here you'll add like get contract or follow up and whatnot. And you can start checking off as you go, just like that. This is Trello. Now your next option is Podio, which is not very expensive, but the thing is that you do need to be kind of an expert at setting Podio up because it's not easy. So unless you have, I'd say, a couple $100 to pay someone to get it done, then it's probably not going to be worth it, because Podio is more for people that have a team already. Like if you have a lot of people on your team, you're going to use this. But if it's just you and one other person, then you're not going to need Podio. Now, REI Reply is another CRM. This is how it looks. This is how your pipeline would look, essentially. And yeah, it's good for texting. You can call, you can create tasks. We have to follow up with people. It's really, really helpful and useful. So if you guys are looking to get a CRM, you're going to be in between Trello, Podio, and REI Reply. Totally up to you what you want to use, but you are going to need a CRM. Now, next is find an investor-friendly title company where you can actually come in and pull your contracts with them and hold the buyer's earnest money and get everything done. So the best way is by recommendation, or just go on Google and search title companies / investors and call every single one of them and ask them these questions. Do they do assignments? Do they double close? Have they worked with investors before? Are they aware of assignments? That's the main one. If they're aware of assignments and they've done them before, great. Make sure they're also aware of double closing, because sometimes you will need to double close. Not all the time. I'd say like 1 out of 10 you double close. You're going to sell it for higher and you don't want the buyer to know, you might double close.